How Democrats were tricked about the economy, and a warning for Republicans as well. So here's my man, what's this guy's name? Walter? Eugene Ludwig, who used to be the former U.S. comptroller of the currency under Clinton in the 90s. The OCC, the Office of Control of the Currency, a pretty big wig in Washington, D.C. for sure. I don't know this guy, but here's what he said. Voters are right about the data. The voters are right about the economy. The data was wrong. Here's why unemployment is higher, wages are lower, and growth less robust than government statistics suggest. I want to show you something first, though. This day on my various social media feeds, and I said, is this acceptable? Historic inflation-adjusted median household income, and we're going to look at Kennebuck County, Maine. In 2005, it was $61,400. In 2021, it's $60,500. All right, so Kennebuck County, Maine has actually lost relative to median income. It's lost money. Now, these are adjusted for inflation, so it's basically stayed even, Steven, but a little bit down. The U.S. as a whole has grown from 64,000 to 69,000. That's not much either. And then the state of Maine has grown from 59,000 to 65,000. Not much. Not much. That's adjusted median household income. So that's in 20 years. You can see Kennebuck County dropped. The United States has grown about 40 basis points, if my numbers are right. I can't remember. Maine has grown about the same. So let's go what my man says here, because it's very, very interesting. Because he says right in here, for the presidential election, many Democrats were puzzled by the seeming disconnect between, quote, economic reality, unquote, as reflected in various government statistics and the public's perception of the economy on the ground. Many in Washington bristled at the public's failure to register how strong the economy really was. They charged that right-wing echo chambers were conning voters into believing entirely preposterous narratives about America's decline. In recent years, as my focus has broadened beyond finance to the economy as a whole, the disconnect between, quote, hard, unquote, government numbers and popular perception has spurred me to question that faith. I've had the benefit of living in two realms, one as a Washington insider and the other as an advisor to lenders and investors across the country. Toggling between the two has led me to increasingly be skeptical that the government's measurements properly capture the realities. In fact, he uses this right here. Particularly egregious example is the unemployment numbers. Known to experts as a U3, the number misleads in several ways. First, it counts as employed the millions of people who are unwillingly underemployed. That is people who, for example, work only a few hours each week while searching for a full-time job. Second, it does not take into account the many Americans who have been so discouraged they're no longer trying to find a job. Now, we've all known that. I don't think that should be unique to anybody. But the third one is the prevailing statistic does not account for the meagerness of any individual's income. That you could be homeless on the streets, making an intermittent income and functionally incapable of keeping your family fed, and the government would still count you as employed. I don't believe those who went to this past election taking pride in the unemployment numbers understood that the near record low unemployment, 4.2%, counted homeless people doing occasional work as employed. The picture is similarly misleading when examining the methodology used to track how Americans are earning. The prevailing government indicator, weekly earnings, tracks full-time wages to the exclusion of both the unemployed and those engaged in part-time work. Let me show you an example. Here's real median weekly earnings. Real is adjusted for inflation. $335 in 1979. $375 in 2024. That's 1.25% increase in real median weekly earnings. And again, real is adjusted for inflation, but weekly earnings excludes those right here. Real excludes the unemployed and those engaged in part-time work. Now let's talk about GDP, the gross domestic product, a figure that stands as perhaps the most important single economic indicator, but is commonly viewed as a proxy for prosperity writ large. There is, to be sure, real value in tracking the sheer volume of domestic production, though GDP is an imperfect measure of that. But as useful as the figure may be in the sense it purports to track generalized national wealth, it is hampered by a profound flaw. It reveals almost nothing about how the attendant prosperity is shared. That is, if a small slice of the population is awarded the great bulk of the bounty from economic growth, while everyone else remains unriched, GDP would rise nonetheless. And to a crucial degree, that's exactly what happened. Since 2013, Americans with bachelor's or more advanced degrees have in the aggregate seen their material wealth improve. By the Federal Reserve's estimate, an additional tenth of adults have risen to comfort. However, those without high school degrees have seen no real improvement, and geographic disparities have widened along similar lines, with places ranging from San Francisco to Boston seeing big jumps in prosperity, but places like Youngstown, Ohio, Port Arthur, Texas, Kennebuck County, Maine, falling further behind. The crucial point, even before digging into the nuances, is clear. America's GDP has grown, and yet we largely remain blind to the disparities. All right, so here's historic adjusted income for people in Boston. $86,000 in 2005, $100,000 today. $86,000 in 2005, $100,000 today. That's a real increase of 0.75%. Not great, but certainly better than the Kennebuck County in Maine I just told you. Let's look at Pittsfield. I think that's out west, is it not? I think it's out west. Let's take a look. I don't know where Pittsfield. Oh, same. Look at it. Pittsfield, Massachusetts. 67,000 in 2005, 60,000 today. All right, that's not good. That's not good. Let's what be another I don't even know what's Barnstable. I don't know what that is. Barn. I don't know what this is. Barnes. What is it called? Barnes Table Town, whatever that is. 75 to 80. I don't know what that is. Let's go to Springfield. That's the capital of Massachusetts. It went from 61 to 65. But you can see, depending, what's the Suffolk County? Is that where? Yeah, right there. I think it's Suffolk County. Let's take a look. Suffolk County went from, I think that's, isn't that 64 to, this went from 60 to 78. A pretty significant jump. So anyway, you can see, and I don't know any of these other counties, I don't know anything about Massachusetts. But what you can see is that the haves, let's actually look at D.C. too. I'm just curious. Let's take a look at Washington, D.C. Yes, Washington, D.C. went from 65,000, which is the exact same as the U.S. in 2005, to 90,000, which is, I mean, look at that, dude. If ever you need a freaking Hunger Games thing, that's it right there. That's crazy. Let's look, I'm just curious. What's the Greenwich? Is that what's called Greenwich County or something like that in Connecticut? Let's look at, I don't know what, man, we got Greenwich. I'm not sure what these counties are. Fairfield County, I think. I think it's where all the hedge fund managers and all those guys live. I'm not sure if it's the right county. Yeah, it hasn't gone up much. It hasn't gone up at all. Fairfield County, look at that. Hasn't gone up at all. I'm not sure where the rich people live in Connecticut. I thought it was Fairfield County. I could be wrong. But look at that. Ooh, look at Connecticut even. Connecticut, 84,083. Connecticut, look at that, dude. I'll let you make the decision yourself. You can sit there and say, oh man, America's crushing. Are we? Some segments are. The finance segment, the government segment, the people push papers. A lot of segments are not. And Republicans better heed this because they're just like the Labour Party, Tory Party in Britain. They were given in 2019 with stupid Boris Johnson. They squandered it because they fell for the pandemic. And I'm just telling you right now, man, the Republicans, you'd better wake up to the realities of your love of free trade always and everywhere, low corporate taxes always and everywhere, and recognize that a lot of people aren't buying into that stuff anymore. They're just not. And if you don't buy into that, you're going to be tricked just like the Democrats, and it's not going to be good. All right. Love your thoughts. God bless. We'll see you. Smash that like button and subscribe.